What's up, world? Uko here from Better Therapy Now. Should you go to therapy every single week? The answer is maybe. It really depends. The first thing I'll point out, if you have a history of doing things very damaging to yourself, such as overeating or doing substances like abusing drugs or alcohol, if you have that type of history, then even if you're not going through a difficult time, you want to see a therapist at least at a check-in status, such as doing it once a month, once every couple of months, just to have a check-in and kind of help you identify something that's very important, and that is warning signs. So I've worked in substance abuse counseling specifically for a while, and one thing that we always talk about is a relapse prevention plan. So people will go through like a 30-day program or a 90-day program, and then they'll do individual therapy after they graduate that program. And we want to build a relapse prevention plan that has three things in it that are really important. One is a support system, listing people that you will call and talk to that you trust if you're going through a difficult time, so that they can kind of check in on you, or that you can just work through different, I guess, emotions with just like a sponsor or a parent or a really close friend. That helps you kind of release some emotions and just talk through things. And number two are triggers, stuff that you might see that will get you to, relapse or do drugs again. And then the third thing, and this is why I think no matter what, you should do a check-in session, at least monthly or bi-monthly, and that is warning signs. So negative thought patterns that are going through your mind might be a warning sign. Isolating for several days at a time could be a warning sign. But that's a reason, even if you're not going through a tough time, to still see a therapist monthly, bi-monthly. The second thing I'll point out is if you have a tendency to go into depressive episodes very often, or maybe you've been diagnosed in the past with a mental health disorder, and even if, especially if you've been medicated, I would say see a therapist every couple of weeks or maybe monthly, even if you are, for the most part, doing pretty well, to do the same thing. See warning signs and then have somebody to constantly kind of, I guess, work through things with, and practice different exercises, mindfulness exercises, ensure that your routines are still intact and that you're not kind of falling off from those. So that's the second reason. And I guess the second pace with which you want to see a therapist. The third thing is if you are going through a significantly stressful event, you want to begin therapeutic sessions weekly. So what I've done in the past, I used to work in IOP, and we would have some clients who would come in monthly, some clients that would come in biweekly, and some clients that would come in weekly. And the ones that were coming in weekly usually were going through something very difficult, or they were just currently struggling with a very difficult task or challenge in life, and that required the weekly sessions. And then we would drop them down to bi-weekly once they were able to kind of manage themselves and manage their life, and the emotions surrounding the event were not controlling their life. They drop down to like bi-weekly, and then after a while they drop down to monthly or in services completely. The goal would be, 12 to 16 sessions, and then they would be done with not necessarily done with the therapeutic process, but dropping down to less frequent sessions. I always tell people, especially if you work at because I've worked at cash pay practices before, that you don't always have to attend therapy weekly, because that can get really pricey. Even if you're just doing co-pays with insurance, weekly sessions can get really pricey, but bi-weekly and monthly sessions are definitely an option. And these are all things that you can talk with your therapist about in that first session, which is usually like an assessment or a treatment plan build. Talk to them about how often do you think you need therapy, and then try to develop some type of rationale, like how often do I need to meet with somebody to try to accomplish these different goals on the treatment plan? And that would kind of give you an indication of whether you should be going weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or whatever it is. I'm Uko from Better Therapy Now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.